Welcome back. We are starting the next session. We have Nattu Adnan, who is co-founder and CTO of LottieFiles with us. So, as Sapta was telling about LottieFiles and how he uses LottieFiles to use these macro interaction and hand off to the developers. So, we have Nattu to explain it better. And LottieFiles is the creator of this animation file format, Do Lottie. So that animation works on platforms like Webflow or with the JSON file you can hand off to the developer, to any developer. It supports many technologies that Nattu will be sharing with us. Nattu has over 20 years of experience in building web applications, and his approach involves a user-centric design process to turn complex problem into understandable and good-looking products. So he's also a designer, not just the CTO. So yeah, Nattu, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Arpit, for the intro. So I think because since we are talking about animation and interactive design, the best way would be for you to actually see something. So can I actually share a little bit so that I can
Sure, definitely.
Yeah, sure. Hold on. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah,
Guys, I'm
cool.
starting a poll so that I can ask how many of you can see this.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can start, right?
Yeah. Definitely.
Cool. So before we talk about LottieFiles, I want to talk about Lottie. So what is Lottie and how did it came about? So Lottie is usually we see animation formats or files as MP4s or JFs and so forth, but Lottie is sort of like a JSON-based animation file format. JSON designers, they're like, what is it? Like for developers, it is, wow, okay, I know JSON. It's like a simple text file format. And for designers, it's so new to them that we have to explain to them in a term that they would understand as well. And so what Lottie is essentially, hold on. So this is again like going back to how you implement animation in your devices, like Android device, iOS, or websites. Back then, usually you use you used to stitch a lot of images together in order to create an animation, or sometimes you use the GIF as well. That is again like all of these file formats have their drawbacks. Either the quality is poor, the file size is really heavy, and like what Sapta said, a lot of times you hard code as well. That means you sort of design your animation and give it as MP4 or GIF file, but the developer's like, hey, this is too heavy. We can't really use this on our platform or mobile app. So I'm going to actually code the entire thing in Android, in iOS, in web. And that's why developers don't really like redoing something that a designer has already done. And that's one of the reasons or the pain points where the Lottie came about to fix. Because now it explains that this is JSON thing very purely centric to developers who don't actually want to redo the entire thing, but still wants to get a really, really good quality. So as a Lottie, the biggest advantage of Lottie compared to any of the other file formats are it's again just descriptive, and also it's really, really small. And it can play really, really fast, 60 frames per second. We've seen some even playing 100 if your device actually supports it.
Yeah.
And that means if you compare that to something else like GIF, that's really, really tiny. But at the same time, speaking of now, dark mode and light mode come into play as well, so that you could actually change these animations as you play them, change the color, change the position, just like any other developer thing that you play around with, any sort of interaction that you have, you can interact with these animations. So that was something that we found hey, wow, this changed the world in terms of how you play, interact with animation, interactive content, how you deliver them, how you create them. share and implement them as well. So that was like one key point as well that we found. Hold on, trying to. Yeah, so I hope that sort of gives you an idea about what Lottie is. And
yeah. So, like, I get the point that Lottie is smaller and you can change the colors in the real time. But how it's like, like easing when I'm providing that asset to the developer, and like with what values they can change those specific module.
because it's like a JSON file. Essentially, what the file includes is a description of the animation. Just like, hey, it's just like SVG as well, but there's a heart shape. The color is red. So when it plays in your player, it sort of like tells the player, hey, now paint a blue color or green as well. So right now, it's not that easy to manipulate runtime. The possibility is there. Still not, Lottie is a like relatively really young format. And your developer, like a lot of developers tweak that on their own because like JSON files are their nature of things. There are a lot of libraries coming out. One of them, we have our interaction library, LottieFiles.com/interactivity, where it hooks into your scrolling. As you scroll, the animation can change and play and then seek as well. As we've seen in, let's say, Webflow, they have their own versions of like how to play or interact with a Lottie animation. So it is relative compared to where you actually, what can I say, implement them. But also in the Lottie files, we have a Lottie editor, web editor, where you could go and change any files, like their properties, their colors, and if there's text, you can edit them. I imagine like animation on like a dynamic text. Now the localization comes into place. You don't have to go back to After Effects, just change it to like, let's say Hindi and export it and then pass it to your developers or for them to again code or implement on your device. Rather, you can now dynamically change the text and other properties as well. The possibilities are endless. But yes, for wider adaptation and to awareness and for people to learn, there's a path to go.
That's nice. You have explained more about LottieFiles. So what was your idea behind LottieFiles when you started it? Like you told us about LottieFiles, but what was your idea when you were starting it?
As the earlier session, I was very much into interactive design, or at least on the UI design level. And I was doing like a home service mobile app. And, home services mobile apps aren't really sexy. And you have to like bring in a lot of design elements and animation into these. And I was looking for something like Lottie, just like a lot of other people as well. And when I found Lottie as a format just kicking off, I was like, hey, we should try this. And back then there was no like web player that came out about. The Lottie was just purely an Android and iOS player that was done by Airbnb, by the developers at that time were in Airbnb. But the JSON structure was there even before that. So us actually, or me and my friends, when we were trying to implement Lottie, we were like, oh my God, there's no web player. So we were trying to figure out, okay, there's now a web player. Let's just bring that in. Oh, okay, how can you actually test? Because if you have a Lottie animation or an animation, JSON animation, some features doesn't work on iOS or Android. What is the best way that you can figure it out without me having to install Xcode and Android Studio and put this file in and just playing? As a designer, you can't even like teach someone to install Xcode and run your own app in order to test just a simple file I did, because for a designer, it comes very naturally to them that whatever they've created, sort of assets, SVG or any sort of assets, they can just double tap and then preview it immediately. But this thing, like, so there was a lot of technical things that came up, and as we moved in our product design journey, any pain point that we had around using Lottie, we started implementing it on the website. And then soon, because it was relatively new format, we were like, hey, let's give people space so that they can share the animations that they spend hours creating. And then soon there were like people sharing all sort of animation, and that love for the community came about on how we can actually improve Lottie, bring in more tooling, empower it so that it gets used almost everywhere. So that was like a beginning of a movement, beginning of a community based on the common shared pain points that we all had. And then today we are, like, we see it almost everywhere.
Yeah, like in my like design career, I've seen Lottie as a new revolution in the design industry because everyone nowadays is talking more about like Lottie rather than the animation they create on the After Effects, right? So coming to the tool part that you said that okay, you can export and use into Android, iOS, or on the web itself. So this is the like later on part. In the initial part, what tools or skills are required for, let's say, a newbie to use Lottie files or to create that Lottie?
From a design point, I think, yeah, like on earlier, Saptarshi said, like when you look at After Effects, it looks like, okay, this is a rocket. I need to learn so many things because After Effects has been there for like 20 plus years, and
Right.
its not main purpose is to create micro animations. But so in a newbie level, it would be like, I can imagine it would be really hard because the first time that I started using After Effects was when I discovered Lottie as well. And I wish there were more things that, or tutorials and like learning resources that we have today, like if I had back then as well. But it doesn't have to be that way, even though like the After Effects is so big, but based on the resources out there, you can do as simple as like Saptarshi said, it's not about the tool that you need to learn, it's about the idea, because you could do the same thing with like, let's say, frame by frame animation with Principle or with Figma, sort of a thing. But what are you trying to create? What are the resources out there that I can go and learn about? What we've done, like based on my previous answer, like previous question about the pain points of a user. So we've created few tools and libraries to make it incredibly for anyone to export a Lottie animation from After Effects. There are other tools like there's Keyshape, there's Haiku, there's Create with Flow. And to list a lot of these, if you go to Lottie, or even if you do a basic Google search, what is Lottie? You'll come to a page, LottieFiles.com/what is Lottie. And that page will have a lot of these extensions, libraries, and even give you a better insight about how this came about and start using as well. So for any newbies, we have LottieFiles/course, where one of the founders of or was in the team in Airbnb at the time that Lottie mobile libraries came about, and he was like a big part of it. So he was teaching about how, like in LottieFiles/course, you could see his course about how to create a Lottie or just a newbie, and then how to export them, how to test them, and how to implement them as well. So there's tons of resources. I hope that answers.
Yeah, it should definitely. So, like one question to you, as like Sapta also said that he's also waiting for, let's say, integration with new prototyping tools like Principle or Protopie. So, are you planning that? Because like a lot of people are looking forward to that.
I think like when you think about last 2 or 3 years, like design tools have exploded. There was
Yeah.
just Sketch started the game, or now there's XD, now there's Figma, like InVision Studio, FrameX. Like there's so many, like some specifically in design space or prototyping space, or even file management and collaboration space as well. So we are trying our best, and we have, like, I'm so fortunate to have an amazing team that who are working like on every aspect of this, because they see the pain that even like the designers face, or even the developers face as well. What like bringing these animations to like certain tools that they use for today. A lot of, because Lottie is, like I mentioned, relatively new, and for these tools, mostly on the canvas side, they like most of them, they don't even support GIF, even GIF for movies. So it's like everything is very static. And Figma just started supporting GIF. So we have a LottieFiles for GIF plugin where you can convert any of your Lottie animation to a GIF, place it on your design. But when you do the handoff to your developer, developers can look into that screen and then click on the GIF and say, oh, this is actually a Lottie. Here's the link that you can actually download. So this is what that handoff translation that on the previous session as well, that was talking about, like how can that transition be smooth. Protopio already supports Lottie. Framer X already supports Lottie as well, but not in terms of bringing Lottie plugin straight to there, but Lottie as a whole supports in these platforms, and not just on like, now here comes the question, like design tools versus, does Webflow count as a design tool or implementation
So
tool?
it's a no-code tool, and I was coming to that. Like, there are lots of no-code tools available in the market right now, and we also have like a course going on people who build related to Webflow and no-code. So, like, if I am a new designer who is trying no-code tools like Webflow, how do I integrate Lottie files directly into Webflow? Like, is there any direct integration, or I have to just export like JSON and convert it into a SVG or some kind of that image, or it's if it directly gets into Webflow?
Webflow has, like I would say, like native support for within the Webflow editor to just drag and drop a Lottie JSON file and start using it straight away. And there are like other, even WordPress, there's Elementor. We've recently released like a partnership with them as well. Elementor, within Elementor, there you can just drag and drop a Lottie animation and start using it within there. Same for Webflow. That comes with more interaction. So because it's just like natively supported, you could hook into your like browser. So if you click on something, animation pops up or it plays, or like you can do all sort of interactions with the cost of like lower I would say like file size, right? Really from a really small file size. And there are other tools that are coming, like web creation tools that are coming in. If anybody is trying to implement a Lottie animation on their website outside of even Webflow, we have something called a Lottie Web Player that easily you an embed code where you can put on your website, either be it like WordPress or any other software out there, web-based software out there. So there's a lot of tools that we've done on our site to make it easier for a designer not to go through the hassle of the developer-centric of this. Because like I mentioned earlier, the entire Lottie was essentially on the developer side, it gives a lot of value to them. And now bringing that back to the designer as well, empowering them and giving them the power that, hey, whatever I design or create gets implemented exactly the way that I meant, like it is meant to be, right?
Right. So the translation should be same. Like
Yes.
what you design should be there. Yeah.
It shouldn't be translated. It should be as it is.
Yeah. So there shouldn't be any translation. This should be as it is. Right. Yeah. So Nattu, like if let's say I just want to start, I think may have already given a link in chat, but let's say if I want to start learning about Lottie files or Lottie in general, and then integrating into my website. So what are the resources available for newbie designers?
For designers, one thing that I would recommend is going to LottieFiles website and look for, like, browse through the inspiration. There's thousands and thousands of animations that you can just download, and you can even look for the animations with After Effects files so that you can open them in Effects and then see how it was done. So that, like, for me, that was the best way that I've learned how to play around with animations, and I'm not an expert in there, but I'm learning. And so I think that is like one area that, because a lot of that comes with inspiration. Why am I, what are people actually creating? How are they actually creating them? And then, like I mentioned, we have LottieFiles/course, where you can find course one from Saleh, and the other one is from UX in Motion, Isara. And if that is not enough, you can go to YouTube and search for Lottie tutorials. You will see thousands of them. If not Medium, like there's so much content out there for you to learn how to play around with the Lottie. We have our LottieFiles extension for After Effects, LottieFiles.com/AE. Easily, you can do a lot of things to assist this workflow. If we still have time, I will I want to show a little bit of how the workflow looks like. So
Sure.
yeah, okay. Let me just share it so that I can.
So I quickly plug in one marketing point over here. So guys, for all you new designers, or even like any level designer, we like as people who design, and LottieFiles are in our talk to have some kind of tutorial sessions in upcoming days, and you will get to learn more about LottieFiles in these kind of Lottie E-Meetups, and you will get to know more about how to integrate these Lotties into your website. So we will try to arrange these sessions. So if you are up to, just like give a thumbs up in the emojis section. Yeah.
Cool. I'll just go with this. I hope you see the screen. So before going there, I'm just like showing what are some use cases of Lottie and what are some of the most popular apps that are using Lottie. And we love what Swiggy has done with those micro animations, giving like rewards and so forth. And not just on the mobile apps, we've seen a lot of them in the websites as well. So you could browse around. A lot of like top 100 apps on App Store actually uses Lottie as well. And so I've discovered that a bit. But on the Lottie file, and we have LottieFile and Lottie workflow, and then the community part. So on the workflow side, like primarily most of the Lottie animations are done using After Effects, because like that thing is a beast, and you can do as simple as you want, you can do as complex as you want, and you could use LottieFiles After Effects plugin to export them easily and test them. And a lot of times you have to test these animations before you give to your developer, so that there's no back and forth. You want to test them in your phone or Android phone, because the way that Lottie functions on both phones, and some of the features that may not be supported. Like I mentioned, After Effects is a beast with thousands of features, and Lottie doesn't support all of them, unfortunately, but it's still catching up. And you could use, we've made it super easy for you to actually use our plugin, click on one button, and it goes to your mobile app, like as a push notification, that you can just preview that animation straight away, so that you could inspect. The best ways, like Saptashi said, like show it to people, get feedback, so that you know that it actually works. And then, well, if you're working on your Figma and other tools, you can bring that Lottie animation to there in some form of like GIF or even videos as well. And then you use like implementation tools like Webflow, or even a web player, Android library, iOS library, mostly for the devs that implement this Lottie animation as well. And just to add to one part on the community, we have thousands of free Lottie animations that you could come and use them in your mobile apps. If you're not like a designer who wants to go or who knows how to use After Effects, you can customize this any way that you want. And also as a designer, this is again like a career path as well. We've seen a rise of a lot of people looking for Lottie animators. So this is one way that you could learn Lottie, how to create Lottie animations and sell them on our marketplace, or even list them as to get hired. And we've seen a rise of a lot of requests going into people who are looking for clients, who are looking for writers or designers who know how to do Lottie animations. So these are like two main points. And yes, free resources to learn. And then lastly, like animate responsively. So that was something that I really, really want to like highlight on. You can do as much as you want, but like just be responsible with that. I hope that covers a lot of things.
Yeah. Ashwin, you're on mute if you're speaking something.
Yeah, so it definitely did. And to all the attendees out there who are watching us, I would just say that this is a glimpse of what like LottieFiles and PWD are planning to do in future, like to have a more detailed and a nice way to tell you guys how to get into it. So yeah, so we're just going to take few quick questions which are there and which are very relevant to the slideshow that Nattu you were showing us. And there's this question by Ronak which says, who says that will LottieFiles support any other prototyping tool besides After Effects?
Yes, and we are actively working on. In fact, we are like almost like on a better release stage where we are bringing in a plugin for Adobe Animate, and then also there are other tools like I mentioned earlier, Keyshape and Haiku Create with Flow. That already does that, and there are other tools that we are working on to bring the support where you can export to a Lottie animation. And just to add to that, we are also bringing in SVG to Lottie, so that not only because you already have the Lottie library in place, why not add your like static icons and illustrations to as Lottie as well? So actually going to After Effects, you could change or convert your SVG, like static SVG icons and illustrations straight to Lottie as well.
That is really great. Like, really helpful for us as well.
Okay, and then we have another one by Abhishek. It's a question, and he wants to. He's asking you that can we also have a tool to export assets from Figma to AE?
Right now, I think the plugin is AUX by a few designers in Google who like which you can use not from Figma only but from Sketch as well. That you can convert you can copy like a vector format like a design and then bring it to After Effects, AEUX. I'll write that on the comments as well. But that's one of the really popular ones. If you follow the course on LottieFiles/course with Isar on UX Motion, he details this out specifically on how you can bring designs from Figma or Sketch back to After Effects so that you can animate these icons and illustrations and export them to Lottie.
Perfect. Okay, so now we will quickly move to the Q&A session, and we will take up all these questions, try to get most of them with Nattu and Sapta. And before we move on to the session, I would really like to thank you, Nattu, for giving us these insights, for explaining what LottieFiles is.
Yeah, thanks for having us. And one last bit that I just want to correct, like I mentioned earlier. So Lottie was already there, but one file format that we are playing around with is a superset of Lottie, which is called .lottie. We'll paste the link down as well. So this further compresses Lottie and also brings an extension .lottie instead of a .json so that you can preview that in your computer and so forth. In coming weeks and days, we will bring up more details about this as we go. But for now, you can even look .lottie.io, go with their libraries and then all of that. So we just want to make sure that that is very clear on that.
Perfect. And we all, Arpit, PWD, we all wish you all the best, and to you and to LottieFiles for all your future plans. And we are really excited to see what all you're going to bring to us with LottieFiles in the future.
Thank you, and we are really excited about this new possibility of bringing animations to almost everywhere.